We're going to jump into a passage here, okay? So bring out your Bible, Joshua chapter 1, verse 6 through 9. We're going right into it because I believe God has a word for you tonight. I'm all over the place tonight. I'm going to be all over the place because I have so many good thoughts through this one passage and what God wants to speak to you. All right, so last week, who remembers last week when we had some students come up here on stage and start declaring what God has put in their hearts? God spoke to, I believe it was 4 or 5 students last week. And they come up here and they were declaring the dreams and visions they had in their life. And I thought that was so powerful that I wanted to just continue on with that and talking about we need to use this time to be diving into God's dreams and visions for our life. We can't be so boxy in our thinking. We can't put limits and a cap on us. I believe God has things that you've never even thought about before. And He wants to tell you. He wants to let you know that He's preparing you for them. And so we're going to jump right into it. Joshua chapter 1, verse 6 through 9. This is my favorite book in the Bible. Do you guys know why it might be my favorite book in the Bible? Hey, come on. It's my name. I was actually named after this book. My dad named me Joshua after the book of Joshua. Any other Joshuas in here? Come on, it is the coolest name. What's the second coolest name? Who do you? That's kind of. Robbie's a pretty cool name. That'll be number 2. All right. Eli or Ellie? All right, we ain't getting Eli tonight. But hey, we are in Joshua chapter 1, 6 through 9. And so God is giving Joshua a halftime talk. A little context, really quick, is there's this nation of Israel. Raise your hand, give me an A if you heard of nation of Israel. Hey, come on. Some people have, some people haven't. It's all right. But basically, the nation of Israel was called to be the city upon a hill. They were the first group of people that were going to live out the one and only true God's principles, the things that God has laid out for us, His laws, His commandments. He was bringing together a people that would eventually be a light to the nations, a light to the world, okay? And so the first person that was leading this nation was Abraham. He was the founder of the faith, and then it led to Moses. And Moses was supposed to be the one leading the people in to the promised land. And some of you guys may think of the promised land like going back to school, like you want to get back there. Like, man, I just can't wait to get to the promised land next year. We're going to be back in school in person, right? Promised land could be you guys going to the state championship. It could be many different things. Going on vacation with your boo thing in Hawaii down the road when Jack's 27, like Pastor said, right? The promised land. And so Moses was supposed to lead the Israelites, this nation of God, into the promised land where they were going to be the city upon a hill, the Bible calls it, where people would look at them and be like, okay, that's how you live your life. That's how you do it. And so Moses ended up slipping up. That's a different story. He messed up. He wasn't obedient to God in a certain way. He did not get the blessing of entering the promised land. So in comes the replacement, Joshua. And I picture it like basically LeBron James just got kicked off your team. You're at halftime and he got it blew out his calf. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, you need to step up, Joshua. It's your turn to take over this team. And so Joshua's stepping right in here. Verse 6, God is telling him, He says, be strong and courageous. Come on, that halftime talk, you heard those guys yelling. I can see God yelling at Joshua right now. Come on, be strong and courageous, Joshua, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Verse 7, be strong and very courageous. Come on, God, you just said that. Why are you repeating yourself, God? Do you have a stuttering problem? Like you're God. Why are you repeating yourself? But God's like, I know how quickly your courage evaporates. I have to repeat myself. I think about it my first day of 7th grade. We're in the mall. Me and my mom were walking around. And I'm like, Mom, I need a name brand polo. I need some of those cargo shorts with 20 pockets. If you're still wearing cargo shorts with pockets, I'm kind of looking at someone right now. If you're still wearing cargo shorts with pockets, guys, take a hint. It's out of style. If you're still wearing a polo, hey, that's enough. That's enough. That's enough. That's enough. All right. So I walk into American Eagle, okay? And, I'm Lebanese. If you don't know, I'm Lebanese. I tan pretty well in the summer. So I'm just coming off summer, and I'm like, man, I have to use my skin to my advantage. I'm dark. I'm looking good. So I pick out that bright orange polo. I have a blue logo that says American Eagle right on my right pectoral right there. I didn't have pectorals back then, though. I was a little scrawny. And then I got my cargo shorts with the pockets, okay? I had my mid-level Nike socks with some cool white Nikes as well. Yeah, come on, you know how it is. That's still in. The mid-level Nike socks make you look athletic. And I have skinny calves, so they make my calves look a little bigger. So I go into the changing room, I walk out, and I'm just like not feeling it. And I'm like, Mom, do you really think this is it? And she's like, yes, honey, that's it. Come on, you're going to look good. And I'm like, Mom, say it again. She's like, you're going to look good. Come on, be strong and courageous. Wear that outfit. Go there on the first day of school. And I'm like, come on, if Mama knows, right, my courage is back going. It's back going. So we see that sometimes in the Bible, right, I just personalized the Bible there. And I believe personalizing the Bible is a good thing. And because I believe the Bible is alive and active. And we're going to get into this a little bit later, why personalizing the Bible could maybe be a bad thing. But basically, we could all sense that, right? Joshua's like, my goodness, like I'm stepping into this. Like we've all had times in our life where someone had to like say it again. Come on, let me know. Give me some encouragement. Give me that halftime talk. Verse 7, it continues on. It says, be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from the right or to the left. Don't get distracted, God's saying. That you may be successful, say successful, wherever you go. Come on, this is God's heart for you to be successful. Continue on, it says, keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. There he goes, third time. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Come on, I love that last verse there. I love that last verse. He will be with you wherever you go. Come on, God's promises, or God's presence is guaranteed. Write this down. God's presence is guaranteed, but his promises are optional. Come on. I don't know if you've been there before. I know I've lived in some very sinful, dark days in my life, and I remember I'd wake up in the next morning and I could just hear something in my heart. It was God. He's saying, I'm here. I'm still with you. Don't hold on to that regret. Don't hold on to that pain. You can turn to me. God's a gentleman with his presence. You can make your bed in hell in this life, and God's presence is just waiting there like this. Come on, come to me. Come to me. He's not going to force himself into your life, but he's always going to be there saying, hey, are you ready to come to me? I got a better opportunity for you. I got a better life for you. His presence is guaranteed. But his promises are optional. He promises you joy. He promises you an abundant life. He promises us so many different things, but you have to say yes or no to it. And so how far you want to go with God's promises is up to each and every one of us in this room. And so that's what Joshua is facing in this time. God's like having him look out. You see the promised land, but you have to go through these armies. There's armies right now in the promised land, and you're going to have to defeat them, and then they're going to be tough. And God's showing him, and he said, will you say yes to this destiny? Will you say yes to this thing for you? And I want you guys to know this. Have encouragement in this. Whatever God calls you to, he's prepared you for. You have to understand that God is not a bad coach. He's not just going to throw someone in there randomly. If he's calling you to something, if he's revealing something to you, just like we did last Wednesday, if he's revealing it to you, it means it's time to step up. He's not going to reveal it to you if you're not ready. That will scare you. Right? I know Joshua's still scared, but he's revealing it because God knows he's ready. You don't have to think you're ready. All we have to know is that God knows you're ready. And when he calls you to something, he speaks in your heart, you have to go and do it. You are ready and you are prepared. And I think a lot of times we can personalize this passage. This is where I'm talking about personalizing the Bible can be dangerous at times, right? I think when you read David and Goliath, and you're like, David just slayed Goliath and I can lose 15 pounds too, right? Some of you guys have been there maybe. Or you're like, David just slayed Goliath, and man, I can get my mom to help me sleep over. I can get her to convince her to sleep over at my friends so we can play the new PS5, right? And then you keep going, and then maybe you're the high schooler, like I'm on social media, and I'm going to slay that Goliath. I'm so sick of that person posting all that stuff. I could probably just mute them, but I'm going to keep sliding their DMs and tell them how annoying they are, and they just need to get out of here, and maybe God will just, completely destroy their Instagram. Right? Have you guys been there? I mean, we compare things like Goliath is no longer this nation-defying giant that is literally standing in front of David, ready to slay him, kill him, and end the nation of Israel. Like, we lower the magnitude of what the Bible is trying to teach us. When we personalize the Bible so much and we dumb it down to stuff, we miss the perspective and the point a passage is trying to teach. And so we see in this passage that Joshua entering the promised land isn't like you trying to get a date. It's not like that. No, we have to understand the perspective in this passage. And I want to help you guys understand it really quick, okay? So Joshua, again, it's like basically me saying to Clay, We are going to war. We're going to go to war against we're going to be the United States, right? That's where we're at. Okay, whatever. We're the United States, and we're going to war with China. We're going to go to war with Russia. We're going to the war with Europe, all these big nations, and you're going to lead us. Okay, so you're going to lead us. We're going to strap you up. You're going to get, your gun. I think I might have triggered all the no gun fans in here, but you're going to get your gun. You're going to have all the stuff, everything, and everyone's going to look to Clay and be like, Clay, will you lead us? Let's go. Okay? But honestly, that's what's happening in this passage. He's saying, man, there's a lot of enemies, and they have a lot of ites at the end of it, right? You read the Bible, and they're like, we have the Israelites, okay, and the nation of Israel. The Israelites are going against the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Hivites, the Hittites, the Perizzites. The worst enemy of all, the Cellulites. I'm kidding, they're not in the Bible, right?
Whoa, none of that.
But you have to think Joshua must have been terrified. How many of you have been there before and you're like, God, you're calling me to do that? And you're like, I'm terrified right now. I think there's something in us that rises to the defense of Joshua. God, you're telling him not to be afraid. You're telling him not to be discouraged. Right? He's saying these things to Joshua, and I want you guys to understand this. I think what God wants you to say, because, right, we all feel afraid at times. God's saying, I'm not saying you don't have to feel afraid. It doesn't mean you have to feel afraid, but I don't want you to be afraid. Okay, there's a difference from feeling and being. I'm not saying don't feel discouraged, but I'm saying don't be discouraged. I'm not saying you can't have fear, I just don't want fear to have you. That's what God's saying right here. A feeling does not dictate your being. Come on, listen to Psalm 23:4. This is a famous verse. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Come on, in the most terrifying places, in the hardest times, those things don't have to have you. A feeling doesn't have to be you. You can make a decision. Depression, anxiety, it doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to rule you. I know it's real things and they're frustrating, it's hard. But a feeling doesn't dictate who you are. You can make a choice. You can make a decision. And I honestly believe in our default setting, our default setting in unfamiliar situations is definitely fear. It's anxiety. It's depression. It's discouragement. But I want you to know that God has a destiny for each and every one of you. And it may not be leading millions of people into this promised land, but man, you guys are here for a reason and you're on purpose. Come on, I think about there's no other Abby Hartman in here. There's no other Jada in the whole world. You guys have a purpose. You got to be who you need to be. There's no other Matthew Barton in the world. There's no other Caden in the world. You guys have to understand, you're here and there is a purpose for you. You're not just here to just come do nothing. There's no other one of you in all of creation throughout of all of time. You're telling me you're just here to come sit and watch Netflix and chill and hang and do all... No, there is a destiny for you guys. God has a purpose for you. Look to the person and tell him, I have a destiny. Look to your other neighbor and say, the one that you don't really like as much and you have no idea who they are, look to them and say, I got a job to do. And here's the thing. See, God's promises in our life, and I know that you guys have been called to stuff, and I know it started last night. They seem very attractive, and they seem like it could just be an automatic thing. And I love the enemy God talks about in this passage here. The stuff that he repeats over and over. He doesn't repeat the actual enemy he's going against. Maybe you guys have some enemies, you're going against whatever team or whatever. He doesn't talk about the actual army he's going against. And I think if we don't listen in here, and if we don't focus in here, we're going to be fighting the wrong enemy our whole life. He talks about those three things, right? Fear, discouragement, anxiety, all those things, the things of talking yourself out of it. And God is telling you, it's not about the Hittites. He's saying, Joshua, it's not about the Jebusites. See, these are people you're going to face. It's not about a situation. It's not about a circumstance. No, you need to fight your fear. You need to fight your anxiety. You need to fight your depression. Those are our enemies, young people. Because really anything we can do, those are the things that you need to be praying against. Those are the things that you need to go to war against. It is not against a flesh and blood. It's against some things that are coming against you, some real emotions, some real feelings. You need to fight your feelings. And I think we are so quick, and I just want to give a quick story to explain why we are so quick to talk ourselves out of things. And that's what I want to tell you guys. How many of you guys have talked yourself out of something before? Everybody. How many of you guys feel like you've talked yourself into something? Here and there? But we so often talk ourselves out of things. And if we are able to talk ourselves out of things, we are able to talk ourselves into things. But why is our default to always do this so much more? And it got me thinking back to my gym teacher days. I actually shared this story, but it's so applicable to the message today. I shared this story as one of the first times I preached. And so when I was a gym teacher, we ran the pacer test. Some of my Randolph students know that. Okay. Yeah, Mally, I see you. Come on. I see you guys. And so I would have like these second graders come in, and I would start writing pacer on the board, and they would just immediately, there's a line like right behind me as I'm writing on the board. Okay, and then I get down on a knee, and I'm like, okay, what is it? And they're like, I got to go to the nurse. Not Pastor Josh, it was Mr. T at the time. Mr. T, I got to go to the nurse right now, like my ear's kind of hurting. And I'm like, all right, well, take like 20 more laps, and then you go to the nurse. And then, and then it kept going down the line, and then the next guy was like, oh, I got to go to the nurse too because my foot hurts, right? And then I finally get to this one that was coming up to me, and they're like, Mr. T, like, I cannot do the pacer test today. My heart stopped beating. I'm like, you need to go to the nurse right now and tell them that and see what they say. So she went to the nurse. She came right back. But you know what I mean? Like, when something is hard that is in front of us, our initial instinct is, nope, I can't do it. Nope, I'm hurt. Nope, I'm not going to do it. We are so quick to talk ourselves out of everything. And we miss the call of God on our life. We do it so much. And here's the thing. It happened to all the famous people in the Bible, right? Moses was called to lead so many people, and he starts listing off, I have a stutter, I can't speak, I can't do this, I can't do this. And God's like, nope, you met your match in God. Just like I told those young ones, I said, nope, you met your match in Mr. T, you're running this pacer. And you think of like even Jonah. Jonah was supposed to go talk to all these crazy people about God and help them repent and come back to God, and he said no to God. But eventually he was in the fish, and God still used him, and he kept going. He talked himself out of it, but eventually he talked himself into it, and God got him there. We see this through some of the famous people in the Bible, and I think it's the same thing. You guys, I'm just telling you guys the truth. Honestly, sermon prepping is probably one of my least favorite things to do. Like, I just love seeing other people do it. I love seeing other people just get it, and I love seeing other people lead, and that's what I'm passionate about. I love just multiplying myself and seeing other people. Like, I just love when you guys come to me and say, my youth leader is the most amazing youth leader. They did this for me, and they're doing this for me. That makes my day. Like, that takes the cake over preaching a message, all that kind of stuff. But if I wanted to preach, or if I preach every time I didn't want to, I'd preach probably 2 to 3 times a year. Maybe 2, maybe 1. We'll see. But honestly, like, if you did some of the things when you didn't want to do it, I think when I went to football practice, I'd probably go to football practice maybe once a year. When you think about the things, if you did as many times as you didn't want to do it, you'd probably never do it. You'd probably never do it, but you have to talk yourself into it. I get up every day and I say, I got a sermon prep today, because I know there's students walking in here that are suicidal. I know there's students that are coming in here with depression. I know that there's students coming in here with anxiety. I know that I once used to be there, and I know that there's true change. There's true transformation, and if they get what I got, man, their life will take off. And I just start looking at people in the room, man. I think of Bailey Kuhn right now. I think about where you started, and I'm like, I'm coming there for Bailey. I'm coming. Who's the next Bailey? I could go down the list. And I just start looking around this room right now. I think of Haley Martin. Come on, where you've been and just randomly get invited one time with Marcus, and now look at you, taken off. And I'm like, who's the next Haley Martin? I got to get another message going for it next. You just keep going. You talk yourself into it. And that's what Joshua realized, that my destiny and my calling isn't about me. It's about other people that are depending on me. All of you guys have people dependent on you. You have to step out and do things for those people. And eventually Joshua reached the promised land, and you heard about the walls of Jericho, and he marched around 7 times, and they get there, and that's all good and awesome. And I believe that had eternal effects, and I believe that people were transformed and changed forever through Joshua's faith. And I think Avery was onto something with Mark chapter 8, verse 36. It says, what good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul? And I want you guys to think every day. And I like what Tim Tebow said. He said, this is the last 30 minutes we're ever going to play. Some of those guys were seniors. Whenever I played football, I said, this is the last play I'm ever going to play. I play every play like it's my last play. You gotta live every day like it's your last day. You gotta have that mentality. And you also have to have an eternal perspective. You see, Joshua was leading those people to a promised land that was in temporary earth. But now we are called to be the light of the world. Christians are the nation of God. And you are called to lead people to the promised land of heaven. And people are depending on each and every one of you in this room. Like I said, you are all created uniquely created. There's no one else like you. God has a plan for you. And I think about this rope here. Okay? So this rope, look at it, I got a little knot down there. I don't know what that's all about. So this rope is your existence ever since God created you. Okay? You started right here. Wee little Carly Weinberger, right there. Caleb Peterson, you're right here. You started right there. Okay? Nick Preston, I see you. You started right there. Okay? And so this is your existence. I want everyone to picture this. Right here, this little blue part on this rope is your existence here on earth. There it is. Maybe some of you guys will only live 30 years, so maybe it's right there. Okay? Maybe some of you guys will live 120 years. Come on, Britta, how about you? Maybe you'll get the full blue right there. But the rest of this is eternity. And it just keeps going past the curtain. Doesn't end. You see, people tell me sometimes, like, Josh, you're stupid. Why would you do that? Why would you live for God? Like, why would you make that decision? Come on, like, if you make this decision, it's going to mess up this. And then you're going to be, like, really bummed right here. And then, like, Josh, like, you need to start, like, saving money. Why are you giving all your money away? Like, you need to save for retirement. So, like, if you don't give here, and then you're going to be able to, like, kind of live this little part of your life for, like, 30 years, and you'll be able to save, and you can go to Hawaii, and you'll be retired, and like, you'll get to enjoy all this little piece. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Like, look at all that cool stuff. And you just go down the list like, oh, I need to go to basketball. You know, I got to be so great at basketball or football or whatever extracurricular activity. Or I got to have all the cool people on Instagram. So, you know, like, people will think I'm really cool for this period of my life. But then I actually have to get a job and I have to grow up and I have a family. And then I have kids. And then, okay, whatever. That whole popularity in high school, I guess, never even mattered in this little piece here. And you guys, like, we live such in a box. Like, our mindset, like, we're literally living for this little thing. So many of us do it. I do it myself. And it's like, no, I'm making this decision because all of this. Like, I'm making a decision back here because the only thing that can change all of this is making decisions in this. I'm not just gonna finish this whole series of Netflix when I need to go meet with that friend that needs my help. I need to go and be somewhere. God's calling me to something. I need to be part of student leadership. I need to be somewhere. I gotta stop living just for this so I can change this here and there and there. No, I want to change all this. I want to change this. Because tomorrow's not promised, young people. Stop talking yourself out of things and start talking yourself into things. People are depending on you. God's depending on you. And you got to live every day like it's your last.